Okay, right. Well, thank you everybody for joining our first webinar of the year. We've been running these since just before lockdown and post-lockdown. And whilst I kind of said, I've always wondered when people's appetite would change, but there seems to be, at least in the fund marketing space, a demand or an appetite for what we tend to talk about. So this month, we're going with, what we consider the 5 quick wins for fund marketers. Now, quick should be in inverted commas because there are some things that are quick to do and quick to implement, which I'll kind of take you through on this webinar. Some are a little more difficult, for want of a better word. So starting off is like, for those of you who don't know ProFundCom, we've been in business for the last 20 years. And our real focus has been using digital marketing and marketing automation to help fund managers raise and preserve AUM. And that's really, really the focus of our product. And our product has kind of got 2 branches, one that helps in the marketing operations side and on the marketing analytics side, and the other part is in the asset raising side, and which I'll come to as we go through this webinar. One thing to notice, we have over 350 users of our product that we integrate into most CRMs, and you'd expect that after 20 years, right? I mean, if we went, if there wasn't a specific niche that we covered that CRMs didn't, then we wouldn't be around. And there is a very definite place where CRM marketing automation stop and we start. And in the last 20 years, it has been a real David versus Goliath battle when you are up against, Marketo, Pardot, MailChimp, Adobe, whatever those products are. But I think most of our clients have kind of realized that journey and that investment ends because they're just some things that those products just aren't built to do that are very nuanced to our sector. So with that being said, the 5 areas that I was going to talk about today is, around campaign analytics, around data aggregation, delivering insights to your sales team, how to integrate the various parts of your marketing engine and your marketing components. And the one that I think is probably the most important, and actually the one that I think is actually the quickest to implement, is around marketing automation. Okay, so I'm expecting us to be on this call for about 30 minutes. I've timed it at about 23. It could go over, it could go under. So I hope, I don't know how long you've booked, but the replay of this is available, and it's available on our YouTube channel as well. Okay, so the first thing to look at is campaign analytics. And the big challenge with campaign analytics is that there is a lot of noise in your campaigns. And what people want to know from your campaigns is less about, traditionally, who are the people that have opened my emails? Who are the people that have been on the website? What is my click-through rate? Those things are all fine at a very, very low level. And, that is kind of 1998 type stats. It really doesn't help in really understanding what's your marketing doing. But what you can do is you can take this information and actually say, okay, from this information, how can I extrapolate that information to actually make it a little more meaningful? So what, we've kind of, well, I say one of our clients actually kind of said, well, look, there's another layer to how you collect campaign data. And it's around, looking at your content and your distribution groups. So what we've kind of said is like, right, it's not about opens, it's not about clicks, it's about things like, is your distribution list growing? A really good, life sign, a vital life sign to say, right, your distribution list is growing, that's a good thing. Finding out, are your emails convincing? Is your content working? Are people getting tired of what you're sending them? And the quality of your data. And whilst, you kind of say to yourself, wow, how do I get that from my basic mailing stats that I get from my various, whatever tools I use, it is actually pretty straightforward. Distribution group growing is all about you know, how many more emails are you sending out month on month? And then benchmarking that against all the emails you're sending out versus the unique emails you're sending out. And that's a really good comparison. The other one is to say, you know, are your emails convincing? You know, and you don't need some kind of great, you know, syntactical or grammatical or analytic tool to do that, or AI or whatever the, you know, the buzzword of the month is. It really is just understanding how many people are opening your emails. The other part of this is to actually understand, is your content working? It's all about the second level click. So not just people opening and reading your emails, are they opening the links in your email or downloading PDFs? So that again becomes another tier of your of the knowledge that you're gaining from the very, very simple marketing analytics you can generate from any product. The other part is, you know, are people getting tired of what you're sending them? And then again, if you just correlate that back to your unsubscribes, again, a very, very simple way to kind of not only remove noise from your campaigns, but elevate the data that you get into something that's actually more digestible by, you know, a non-marketer, or if you're kind of looking across multiple campaigns, across longer time periods, actually building out a trend. And the other thing you can also do to remove your noise is to actually understand, you know, what's the quality of your data. And the challenge with quality of data is, you know, how many marketers on this call go through their list and purge it on a regular basis? Very few. How many people delete contacts from their CRM? Very few, because it's just not in our nature to do it. And if you are doing that, you're a better person than me, because I you know, once a year we purge our database, but that's about it. So quality of data is actually really useful to have to hand, and you can actually do that just by monitoring your bounces. Now, how you get this data is kind of up to you. Most people would tend to use Excel to do that. So they'd take their website data, their LinkedIn data, their email data, their Twitter data, put it in a chart, put it in a way that is visually consumable, if that's how you like to see things. But the challenge is, as you'll see from this spreadsheet, it's quite tedious. And it just requires a lot of discipline on a regular basis to actually pull out this content if you're doing it manually. So, you know, campaign data is great. Collecting this data in Excel is great. Extrapolating that data into something that's not just opens and clicks and, you know, very, very simplistic stats to actually something where it's actually more meaningful, very easy to do. But the challenge is always going to be having the discipline to actually input this data in. So that's kind of the first part of, you know, a quick win. Another way to kind of look at this is, now you've got that data to hand, is to actually say, right, if I then cross-reference that data, that engagement data with my CRM data, how many new prospects have been generated from these campaigns? How many people are active? Is that increasing month on month, or is it decreasing month on month? How many people have we reached out to? But more importantly, how many new opportunities have we created? And again, having this data to hand actually completely removes the noise from your campaigns, because we all know is that campaigns are noisy, because you run one campaign, you run it for a particular theme, for a particular strategy, for a particular fund. You know, somebody then asks you to send out an email or a communication for a webinar or an actual physical event. People are logging into your investor portal. All this data is coming in from so many places. It really is a challenge to basically be able to remove that noise and actually surface really useful information for the marketing team. Because once you've kind of got this data to hand, you know, when is the best time to send your mailings out? You know, is your website performing better month on month? Or your social performing better month on month? Having all this data in one place is so incredibly useful. but you've got to build a system out, and you've got to build the Excel out and have the discipline. And, you know, the reason that, you know, most of, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intention, right? And marketing is exactly the same. So not only do a lot of marketers, you know, we work with have, you know, absolutely, they have the desire to have this data available to them, take the noise out of their campaigns. Where it becomes a problem is that every channel that a marketer has to add, so email to website, to social, to investor portal, to Zoom, they actually reduce their efficiency by 15%, that's 15% every time. So once they've aggregated all their systems in place, they've actually, you know, 15 times 6 is 30, that's 90. They're 90% inefficient because they're spending all that time and they've only got 10% of the time left to actually do their jobs. I think I've got the maths right, whatever. But you get my point, is that you stop being marketers and you end up being Excel programmers. And that is not a good thing. So in the end, the analytics drop. It's time to get a pay rise. You go in and the question is, right, I want a pay rise, Mr. Fund Manager or Mr. Head of Marketing or Mr. C-level. Turn around and say, right, what have you done to raise AUM in the business? Because that's a question most marketers are going to get asked. Now, how have you effectively moved the needle? And without these analytics to hand, it's very difficult to do. So there has to be, the reason you've got to remove all these noises from the campaigns is, yes, to get, you know, a real sense of how your marketing is performing, but also having the sense to say, how have you actually moved the needle for the asset raising process and also for the asset preservation process too. And I'll come to the cross-selling elements in fundraising and marketing as we kind of go through this session. Now, another problem with campaigns, and a very quick way to remove noise from campaigns, is being able to aggregate multiple campaigns and their raw data. So, you know, this is just a great example of ProFundCom. So we have a user group, we have client lunches, we have all kinds of, you know, mailings and campaigns we run, but it's very difficult to then pull out to individual campaigns from multiple campaigns and then do analysis on that. And again, that is a really important thing to be able to do, is not only as look at your holistic campaigns, so your campaigns that you've run over a week, a month, a year, a quarter, but also being able to selectively pick out a set of campaigns that you want to analyze. And then you analyze them in the same way as I've done on the previous slides. But ultimately, you know, a lot of this comes down to, if you don't have the right products in place, is a real understanding of products like Power BI, Query Builder, and Excel to do all this. But it's all achievable. And again, if you start from what the very first slide that I showed, where you are just looking at, you know, size of distribution growing, people interested, people losing interest, content working, having all that information available is a really good first step. And if you did nothing from this webinar today, that's a really good starting point. And you'll be surprised that that may just be 80% of the work, and we get 80% of the value that you'll get from actually doing a very little amount of work. Okay, so that is about removing the noise from campaigns. Now, I did the whole world, it was kind of said, right, what does ChatGPT say about what I've just said? Because ChatGPT must be right. It's pretty much come out on what I've kind of said about merging data from multiple spreadsheets. Use a spreadsheet tool, use Power Query, use a programming language like Python or R, or Tableau, Power BI, Looker, or something like that. So again, what you're kind of seeing, and if ChatGPT said it, it must be right, is that it becomes less a marketing activity, more a programmatic activity. So again, be very, very aware that it's not a quick win. Some are, but some aren't. So it is a win, but it's kind of being aware that there is some learnings to do. And look, marketing, as I've always said, if you've joined me in my previous webinars, marketing is an analytical skill as well as a creative skill, and underpaid incredibly. Okay, so anyhow, that's what ChatGTP has to say. I will run another webinar on ChatGTP, content creation, and everything that you ever wanted to know about ChatGTP. And bizarrely, my background is actually in AI, but I realized, back in the 80s, nobody actually was going to implement stuff on AI. And Alan, who's our CTO, is also an AI expert. So we can talk to you about this till literally the cows come home. Okay, so that was campaign analytics. So the next thing I thought we would look at is aggregating data. And aggregating data, and again, not that ChatGTP said it's a hard thing to do, but there are some quick wins that marketers can use to kind of, at least to some level, start to aggregate data. And so the reason you want to aggregate data, the reason you want to look at your website engagement, email engagement, social activity, investor portal, webinars and events, because what it does, it gives you a single view of all of the activities for an individual investor or an individual prospect. That is kind of where we want to get to. And you want to get it in a way that's really meaningful. So if somebody reads this in your CRM, this data in your CRM, the salesperson looks at it, it's meaningful, it has context to it, and it's also actionable. And those two things are really important. And the reason why contextual and actionable information in your CRM is important is because it actually increases the utilization of the CRM, the money you've invested in your CRM, and you don't end up changing your CRM every 7 years because you're either seduced by the better, shinier product, or you've actually hated your system and the data is so useless in it that it's only a glorified Rolodex. And by having this kind of aggregated data, engagement data at the contact level within your CRM, really makes the CRM come alive. And what I'll do is in the next section show you how it actually makes sales teams that much more efficient. But right now, let's focus on, as a marketer, how do you integrate data? I did ask ChatGTP again because I thought, let's find out what ChatGTP has to say. Please don't read it. It's all programming. But there is a way out of this. And that's products like Zapier. So Zapier is a really, really interesting product. And what it allows, if you don't want to go down the programmatic route of knowing Excel, you need to know a little bit of Excel, but Python, R, or any other programming language like that, Zapier is a very, very nice graphical tool that allows you to bring in data from your emails, from your website, from your social, from your investor portal, if that data is actually accessible through what's known as an API. And if you are using these systems, then there is a high chance that Zapier has already built a plugin into these systems. So Zapier, and the training courses on Zapier are available on YouTube. They've got great support. And what that allows you to do, it allows you to build what we call it a series of zaps, which are effectively automations. Now, the challenge with using a zap is, again, it still needs an element of programmatic skill and awareness of, the various inputs and outputs that you want the system to connect with, and generate. So you need to know how to connect, and the inputs you want from, say, your website or your email campaigns or your social, and then how you then push them out into their destination. So that could be Google Sheets, it could be Excel. Once that data has arrived in Excel, you're still going to have to manipulate it within Excel or within your preferred tool to generate the analytics that you need. But again, this is a really, really good start into really understanding and obviously programmatically how you build out these automations. But not just that, it's more of a really good visual tool to allow you to say, right, I come from a creative world. How do I dip my toe into building automations, dip my toe into building programs. The challenge with this is that, again, you have lists and lists and lists of automations, as I've shown you here in an example on the left-hand side, these zaps. And these zaps mean that you are, if one breaks down, you've got to kind of go in and kind of work out what went wrong. And it needs maintenance. And then should you have someone in your marketing team who's responsible for this leaves, if they haven't followed a due process in how they create these and document these, you almost have to start again. So there is risk with doing this, but it is a really good start. So I've just got a question come through. Let me quickly answer this. Do you think that, no, ActiveCampaign is fine. ActiveCampaign is fine. And I do believe that Zapier works in conjunction, Lars, with ActiveCampaign. So with ActiveCampaign, you can pull in data. Sorry, let me start again. You can pull in data from ActiveCampaign and from any other system, merge them together with Zapier, or you can, flip it the other way around and get ActiveCampaign to ingest data from other systems too. So that's kind of how a Zap would work. It is effectively glue between a visual glue between various systems. But ultimately, and this is what I kind of spoke about earlier on, is you want to have a way that you are able to take these various channels, email, social, portal, website, and then take the spreadsheet data that's generated from the previous slide and then get them ingested into your CRM so that a contact, like in this case, Yvette, you'll be able to see she's been on LinkedIn, she's downloaded some fact sheets, she's been on Twitter, so she's really engaged. So before a salesperson even picks up the phone, they already know Yvette's level of interest. Now, again, CRMs are quite happy to ingest this information from the spreadsheet you've created, but then you're into the world of data formatting and the like. But it is a great win. If you can actually be able to do this and push data through into your CRM. And, we're working with a client now. It's taken a year for them to do this because the CRM they're using doesn't allow API access, but you're able to push this data in and it just makes the CRM that much more useful. And it was, if you ask them, it was absolutely worth the time. So the other thing you want to also be able to do is not only look at the aggregation of data across multiple channels, but just across your company. How are you trending? And that's where you want to know, is your website activities going up or down, your socials going up or down, email activity, or your investor portal, all that information. You want to have the ability to, in one place, see how it's trending. And again, very easy to build this in Power BI, providing you've got the data and Power BI, which is absolutely fine. But the real quick win here is to be able to have a system in place where when the budget holder, for want of a better word, the CEO comes in and says, hey, Paul, Pauline, Fred, Joe, how's our marketing performing? And I don't know if anyone on this call, more than maybe got 100 of you, I don't know what percentage of you right now know how is your marketing performing at any one time. Is your social up? Is your website up? Is your email up? Is your portal up or down? What's your campaign ROI? It's like almost, I've never known anyone who knows this at the tip of their tongue. So what they end up doing as a marketer, you lose credibility because you just can't answer a basic question. Because it's very easy to answer the question, how's the fund performing? Very easy. How the sales calls going? Really easy to answer those. Marketing, even though it is, a qualitative art, it has to be measured from a quantitative basis. And this is where it's, again, really important that marketers really understand that. And, a real quick win here is even if you do this on a very, very basic level, it doesn't have to be automated like I've shown you here, but if it's even available in a spreadsheet for that very moment, that you need your credibility for when somebody asks you that question, or when you have your company roundtables internally or town halls, you can actually say, hey, our marketing is doing amazing. Look at these charts. I went on this webinar, the guy prattled on a lot. However, he did make 2 decent points, and this was one of them. So again, it's worth being aware of. So that's data aggregation, and how you bring data together. The next thing, and this is probably, I would say, a real strength of a marketing team, is how they're actually seen to be working hand in hand with the sales team. Because we all love, everyone loves the rainmakers who are the sales team. So any way that a marketing team can align themselves with the sales team and being seen as not something that lives at the top of the funnel, but really middle and end of the funnel, is a really aspirational place to be. So another quick win is just actually, as a marketing team, just seeing yourselves that much more aligned to sales. So what do you want to be able to deliver to your sales team? You want to be able to, in some way, give something like this to your sales team, where they can go in and they can say, they can click on Switzerland, which I've done here, and actually see which companies in Switzerland are showing an interest in them, being able to click down on the company itself and say, who are the people in this company in Switzerland that are interested in us? That is really what we want to get to. You want to make the data incredibly easy to digest for the sales team. You want the sales team to be able to not only see how marketing is performing, but you also want them to probably see as well is, how does marketing affect the inflows coming into the business? These two, and this is, by the way, I'm sure this is a real-time implementation of ProFuncom, where we are pulling data in and aggregating it in Power BI. So this is not I'm not trying to push ProFuncom on anybody. I'm just what I'm showing you here is that within Power BI, which is, I don't know what your subscription is who are on the call, but it's a relatively cheap product. We get it free with our Microsoft suite, and I'm sure if you've got Microsoft 365, it is available at a reduced cost. But it's not like Tableau, which is very, very expensive. It's pretty good. And again, it's really credible, right? Because it's pretty pictures, and it's what the sales guys like, right? Pretty pictures. I can click on a few things. If I want to know if I'm planning a trip to Germany, who are the people I need to speak to? Guess what? Here they are. So that is what's achievable. That's the art of the possible. Now, I built this template, and it took me a weekend of not knowing Power BI at all, and 2 weekends later, this was built. So again, if there's anyone who says, "Oh, this is too much to do," I can assure you, even though I'm a coder by trade, I'm not a graphic guy, and this is all built in graphics. This is just drag and drop, pop it in. You've got to understand data a little bit, but again, there are some fantastic tutorials online on YouTube, which is it's the University of Paul Dass, where you can learn how to do this. And if you go onto websites like Fiverr or Upwork, there are people who can build these out for you if you give them the data set. And it's not a huge expense. So this is one way of delivering insights to the sales team. I've just got another question come in. Yes, the recording is available, Jakun. Okay, so what else can you deliver to the sales team? Well, these are probably the 4 most interesting things that people find useful, probably tough to give you a number, but at least 60% of our customers use this, and the rest would love to use this. And what this does, it takes the campaign analytics to another level, to an extended level. And this is where we're using, and I'm just going to use the word AI, machine learning, machine learning, all that kind of stuff. That's what we use to pull this information out. But we're also using a lot of behavioral science for this. And what this does, it surfaces 4 bits of information that are critical to fund marketing for a sales team. It's pulling out what are the salesperson's, in this case Sally's, low-hanging fruit. So who are the people in your CRM that are Sally's contacts, that have been actively engaged with your fund, have been downloading fact sheets, have been attending Zooms or physical events, but Sally hasn't spoken to them yet. That is a really, really important analytic data for a salesperson to have. So these are people you're not even calling who are interested. Okay, so that's, you know, that's swipe right or swipe left or whatever. So, and then you've got this other thing, which is cross-selling reports, right? And cross-selling reports are effectively the ability to tell a salesperson who are your investors who are looking at funds they're not invested in. So if you're a if you're a multi-fund strategy, or a private equity house or a VC where you're doing multiple fundraisers, this is ideal for that, because you are knowing already people who trust you, trust your brand, trust what you do, that they're looking at things that they could potentially invest in. So that cross-selling report, alongside with the low-hanging fruit report or deck, or whatever you want to call it, is incredibly useful to sales teams. Redemption risk is basically investors who are not reading what you're sending them. And marketing alpha, these are people who have not read what you've sent them for the last 6 months, but are suddenly reading what you're sending them. Now, what's really interesting is when we built this lead deck, this was purely on the back of nobody's interested, when we first released the product, in who's opening what. Because like I said from the previous slides, it's noisy and you can hardly extrapolate any information. But as we refine the product, this is probably within the first 6 months, back in 2006, where we started actually creating this view of the data and started to surface this information. And what really moved the needle for us as a business is when people asked us, how much is the product? We used to show them this slide with their data in it and but we'd hide their data. And we would say to them, well, we don't know what the price is, but tell us how valuable this information would be to your sales team. And that was really where people really crystallized in their mind how all the money they're spending on marketing, all the effort that goes into marketing, suddenly comes into sharp focus. And then the next step after this was to then deliver this information within CRM. And that's what, and once this information is in your CRM, whether it's Salesforce, Dynamo, Situate, and we support, I don't think there's any CRM we don't support now. It makes that data so useful, where a salesperson can go back to Yvette, and not only see that, she's been on LinkedIn, she's downloaded fact sheets, but she's been on the website, she's been on the investor portal, and has been on a Zoom call. So all this information really, really helps the sales team, and also help them understand, is how engaged has this contact been month on month on month. So it's not only just giving, a signal to the salesperson, it's giving real depth. And this is all information that has come out from marketing activities, aggregating that data, and then presenting that to the sales team. Absolutely, so important, as, when things are tough, what team gets budget cut first? Marketing. So it's kind of almost delivering this data to the sales team kind of makes you bulletproof to that kind of downturn. So again, really, really important. And this may not be able to do this today, tomorrow, or the week after, but just finding a way to get closer to the sales team. And even if that means something simple, just like attending their meetings, that's a good thing too. Okay, so that's delivering insights to the sales team. Integrations. So integrations, it's hard work, because if you look at the marketing stack, or MarTech as people like to call it, There's social, there's SEO, there's email delivery, there's CRM, there's content, there's analytics. You've then got to connect all of this together. And when you connect it, you're paying for it, and costs go out of control, and the project dies a death. So the real solution to this, and this is an incredible quick win, is to find an existing integrated platform. You know, we're an integrated platform. HubSpot's an integrated platform. Other products out there would say they're integrated. I can assure you they're not. And this is not a push for ProFundCom. It's a push for finding, you know, niche, specialist, integrated platforms that bring all this data together. And, you know, I mean, Dharmesh, who's the CEO of HubSpot, and bizarrely, you know, our paths cross on a regular basis. They and us went on like completely different routes. We went down the route of being, you know, a fund marketing platform for very, very specific ideal customers who are fund managers, hedge funds, wealth managers, private equity and like, and they went down a more generic market. But that's no harm if that's the product you're using. Other products are available out there, but like, you know, Active Campaign, somebody mentioned, but the integration is where the work starts. And, you know, and that's kind of what I've kind of highlighted is that, you know, if you've got the skills, fantastic. If you don't, it's really worth at least investigating a demo with HubSpot or ProFundCom or, you know, another. Like I said, the end game is being able to give sales teams the integration to give them this kind of view on the data, where you can actually say, and for yourselves, is, you know, which campaigns are performing, which funds are marketing is performing better than others. You know, what ROI are we generating from various parts of our campaign? You know, by city, by country, where is the most popular, you know, where's the most engagement? And again, this again comes from aggregating, like previously said, and then integrating that data. So this again is Power BI. And like I said, you know, if your data is available, delivering this to the sales team, you can actually show how marketing is having an impact on raising AUM. So we're down to the last 5 minutes. I've just overstretched a little bit, but one of the biggest quick gains is automation. And whilst, you know, most people see marketing as building the narrative, creating brand, doing demand generation, creating engagements, and then looking at the analytics, doing that, you can't just do that once. You've got to create an echo chamber. And that's basically where you are basically focusing on number 2 and number 5. Creating content, analyze analytics. Create content, analyze analytics. That is, in essence, what automation is all about. I've just got a question come through. Lars, your question is correct. The question is, do you know if it's possible to get contact information from a website visitor by just having to accept a cookie statement? It's cookie statement and a privacy one. Okay, so I hope that's helped. Right. So what is automation? Well, I'm going to give you what I call the automated go-to-market automations. So everyone has a go-to-market strategy. These are the automated go-to-market strategy. So this is the first one. It's called Remail. Remail is like so effective. If you only did this as well as the first slide, you're laughing. So basically, send your email, wait 7 to 11 days, resend the email to people who have not opened the email or clicked on any links. Repeat step 2. There we go. This is our most, from what I've seen from all our users, the most loved, the most inobtrusive marketing automation they use with the most success. And for example, you know, I did a Remail on this webinar, and the first mailer we sent out, we got about 90 respondents, and the Remail got something like, I mean, a similar amount. So the Remail is a very, very powerful, slightly less on the Remail, but is a very, very powerful and very simple automation to set up. And even if it means you've got to download that information to Excel and send the mail out again, it's worth doing. Okay, the next one is called the split test send. So what this lets you do, this automation, is you send your emails, slightly different emails, whether subject or content or a combination, to 10% of your mailing list. Wait a day and see which one performs better. And then send that out to the remaining 90%. Question from Thomas here. Are you changing your subject line or are you keeping the same title? It's totally up to you. You can put those little tweaks in and then do the Remail again and see the analysis. And you've just kind of preempted my question, is that what you can do once you've done the split test send, you can attach to this automation the resend, and then you're already increasing your engagement from your email. So that again is building out that echo chamber in not too an intrusive manner. Okay, so that's automated go-to-marketing step 2. So number 3 is the nurture campaign. And the nurture or drip campaign, you can kind of use these, however you see fit. But, if somebody has actually left information, they've downloaded something from your website, and going back to Lars's question, if they've downloaded, given you their email, and have given you permission, accepting cookies and privacy, the data, you can use their data. So once they've downloaded, you basically say, right, you wait 10 days, and then you start to send them content. And you can, you basically set up, say, if somebody's downloaded something, you want to send them 5 bits of content over a 6-month period, change the duration if you want to, go to step 2, send them some more content, go to step 2, send them more content. And again, it kind of drips them content. And in those emails, what you really want is a call to action. And that call to action could be, a conversation with the manager to get some more information about the fund, whichever way you want to look at it. So the nurture and drip stops when people act on a call to action. And that's what you want to get people to. And finally, this automation is around activation. And activation is all built around the concept of lead scoring. And lead scoring, which I'll come to in the next slide, is all about if someone has got certain behaviors, you weight them to say, if someone's downloaded an email, that's 1. If somebody's downloaded a fact sheet, that's 2. If somebody's been on the investor portal, that's 5 points. And if cumulatively over a period of time, that reaches the threshold, it sends, the automation sends an alert, not as an email, but to the salesperson, and creates an action, an activity in the CRM for the salesperson. And if that activity is not completed, it sends a reminder to the salesperson. And one of our clients, Martin Curry, uses this to great effect, is where the system is automatically prompting the salespeople to make calls by actually creating automated activities within the CRM, which is quite spooky because sometimes they don't even notice it's the machine that's doing it. So that's kind of the 4th, automated go-to-market automation. Absolutely, so useful to have because, in essence, the more automations you're doing, guess what? The more marketing you end up doing. And automation is all about doing more with less. And whilst it's not about, being a robot that's running at Amazon, whizzing things around, it actually is such a good way to squeeze the most out of your marketing budget and again deliver great value to the sales team. And this is lead scoring, where basically you're weighting different parts of engagement and building out scores based on that. Okay, I've just got a few more questions come in. Really good question, Nick. Is email still the most effective targeting strategy? The answer is we ran a survey, and most people want to receive fund information via email. And the reason for that is because it's easy to categorize, it's easy to read because you can read it when you want. It's not lost because you can file it away. But the other thing, Nick, that was really interesting is to say what frequency did they want it? And most people went with the frequency of as needed, which I was very surprised of, or as a digest on a monthly basis. So there were almost kind of two poles to this, and kind of getting the balance right is its own challenge. And we are at the end of the webinar now, and Nick has asked another question. The question Nick's also asked is what trends do we see? Well, we've already seen the trend, and that's LinkedIn. I think the ability to use LinkedIn and to be able to target your ideal investor. So, if it's not about, just blasting people when they connect with you, sending them a message. There are tools available on LinkedIn, or, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, and I actually have somebody who answers my LinkedIn for me. And it's not because I'm kind of some kind of rock star or something like that. I just don't have the time. But before that, I would spend an hour a day just on LinkedIn looking at what we call our ideal customer and sending them, a message that was built around, what we call our manifesto or whatever, your fun narrative, sending them that. And it's just one of, I think whilst LinkedIn is, the underbelly of LinkedIn is a recruitment platform, but what's layered on top of it may be, people who are posting or signaling, virtue signaling and all that kind of baloney. But there's a layer where it's incredibly, the underrated thing of LinkedIn is those one-to-one messages that you can just send to one another. And just doing that in a conversational way has been incredibly useful for us, and has been incredibly useful for our clients that that use this. And that, alongside with talking to existing investors and getting existing investors to do referrals, is another really, really incredible way. It may not be a trend. It's not a trend like machine learning. It's not a trend like ChatGPT or anything like that. It's just smiling and dialing and understanding that sales in fund sales is a long tail sales cycle. It's literally like selling an airplane or selling a locomotive. It's a long process. And, it's all about building that communication, that trust in brand, and that narrative to kind of bring people in. And it takes 7 to 11 touches to do that. So I hope that answered your question. Another question, which is, when do you purge your mailing list, or do you just drop people off? Any ideas on how to prompt people to give you some feedback to understand if they could be interested? Well, really good question. Purging mailing lists is kind of dangerous. And there is obviously reluctance to do this. But if you want, the question, I think you may be asking is, and if you want to know how can you prompt people to give you more feedback to understand what people are interested in, it's really about crafting your emails in a way where, let's say you've got 4 quadrants. The quadrants enable people to click on things based on their interests. So it's almost not how you're thinking of the email, it's thinking, what are the campaigns you're running? Are they targeted to 4 different interest groups or 3? And building your emails around that. And if you go on our website, there's lots of information about crafting the perfect, crafting an email based around, as you scroll down an email, remember, you can only see the fold of the email, and you don't want images and logos and that kind of stuff in there. You want what you want to tell people there and the call to action. And if people aren't interested, if you're struggling to get people to engage with your email, then, you know, the question then becomes, that's where you kind of go down this A/B testing to say, you know, we're going to change the theme this month, this quarter, or in this campaign, see which one works, and then send out the rest. That's one way of doing it. A really, really clever way of doing it is about asking people, you know, it's called, you know, going for the no. So using words like, you know, would it be against, you know, would you be against connecting with a manager to for a call, as opposed to saying, would you be interested? It's more, would you be against? And there's a really good YouTube clip by a guy called Chris Voss, and it's called No Orientated Questions. And people who have used them in emails get some absolute ridiculous responses from their emails. So I hope that's useful. Nick, yeah, thank you. I'm glad that worked. Torsten, if a young company is building up their CRM system, is HubSpot a good investment? Is HubSpot a good investment? HubSpot's a great product. A tool is only as good as what you're going to do with it. It would be my opening gambit. And what HubSpot's fantastic at is that it gives you the ability to have a CRM, it gives you the ability to do emails and landing pages and things like that. And, you know, if you're a young company, absolutely fine. The challenge obviously becomes, Torsten, is that if you want to start doing more things and actually your list grows and you need to surface information, that's when you start to get into a challenge, because those products aren't built for that. So then you kind of end up either using, you know, building it out yourself again, so you get caught up in coding, or you kind of use a kind of platform like us to do that. So we fit a very, very specific part of where products like that stop and we start. So yeah, so that's hopefully that answered your question, Torsten. Anonymous attendee says your LinkedIn messages have been spot on. Well, I'm glad they work, but you'll be surprised is that probably 20% of people who came on this webinar have actually come through invitations through LinkedIn. So, you know, I'm glad that it does resonate. And what you do find as well, and this is a lot of tension marketers get, is that, oh, I don't want to bother people. And it's like, look, people probably forget your email. If you have an unsubscribe, fine. And if they're not interested in you, they will unsubscribe. And that's pretty much the end of it. Okay, well, listen, I have taken up far too much of everyone's time, and I've actually overgone by 20 minutes, so I do apologize. I'm glad, like, most people have actually stayed on. So I'm on for another 5 minutes if anybody wants to ask me any questions. The replay will go out to people, so rest be assured. Tony, my pleasure. Absolute pleasure, Tony. And obviously, thanks for all your help over the last few months. Hi, Irene. No, my pleasure. Lovely to hear from you. Christopher. Yes, I will have a nice weekend. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that's it. So that's a wrap from me. And at Cholponia, thank you very much. Everybody have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you at the next webinar. Thank you all very much.